Against this right back, Charlie's definitely.
He always used that active red back defending. I think it's like.
People deluded, I'm back again.
Come on, Ian. Come on. Just as Ian Wright said there, folks, people deluded, I'm back again. First things first, new month, new blessings. Hope you and your loved ones are doing well and safe. Hope you're all in good spirits. And let's make sure we make these last 2 years of 2023 count. I can't lie, this year has flown by, people, but it's not over yet. As usual, whether you're on Twitch, Twitter, or YouTube, appreciative of you lot tuned in. If you're on Twitch, make sure you're subscribing with Amazon Prime. If you're on YouTube, make sure you're smashing the like button. Make sure any thoughts, comments, opinions, etc., you're getting them in, people. It's an all interactive platform. 80 million for Ivan Toney. Big up 2-3 in the channel members. It's a madness. It fully is a madness, really. But can you blame Brentford? For argument's sake, can you blame them? He's fairly Premier League proven. He hit 20 odd goals. Pardon me. You know, he's been capped by, I said 2 months. Apologies, man. 2 months left of the year, mate. Apologies. But as I was saying before I was interrupted, you know, he's a key player for them. He's a Premier League established player. He's been capped by his country now. There is a shortage generally of, you can't really say 20 strikers, like really and truly. The striker market, I don't know why, is on the floor. It's probably the same conversation as to, I don't really think there's a widespread clinical strikers bagsman. I guess it's probably the same logic as to why there's not really any majestic number 10s. They've probably been phased out as we talk about false nines and all of that sort of thing. For Brentford, though, it's an inconvenience charge in January. You know, they've stood by him with his betting stuff. Obviously, Brentford are not firing for more cylinders. And, you know, it will be like a new signing for Brentford if they take Ivan Toney. And, you know, they've had to, in many ways, it's probably been the best time to do without him because they've had no choice. But you know, they've had to kind of struggle without him. He could be a new signing. He scores goals, goals win games. And it's an inconvenience fee. Where I think they need to allow it a bit, he's got 18 months left on his deal. He'll have 12 months left on his contract by the end of the year into the summer months. So maybe they're just making it indirectly clear. Listen, January's not the time. If you want to come back in for Ivan Toney, we'll deal with you in the summer. And then, you know, they're not going to get 80 million. It's a bit like Osimhen. Is he not contracted until 2025 as well? You know, Napoli spent a lot of money on him. We all know Napoli are a dangerous club to want to do business with. You know, ask Chelsea how they got fleeced for Koulibaly, really. Maybe that's why he was in Serie A for so long and didn't do nothing. But yeah, man, in that sense, so they'll have to deal with him. And for Arsenal, really and truly, or any club that wants Ivan Toney, the quality is not in doubt. Clearly, you know, the man's a quality player, but he hasn't played for 8 months. No matter how much training you've done and behind closed doors friendlies, are you ready to hit the ground running? Are you the fit Ivan Toney that you've ever been? Are you ready to, you know, for Arsenal, boost our chances to go as far where the Premier League is concerned and the Champions League, etc.? Maybe clubs say, do you know what, we like Ivan Toney. If there's a deal to be done, we'll get a deal done, but we want to assess his progress. And also, you know, if you commit 60 to 80 million on Ivan Toney where Arsenal are concerned, then, you know, if you think he's great for the system and he's great, Bob's your uncle. But you know, in the summer, other people might become available. And to be honest with you, what really confirmed strikers are there really out there? You know, you could say Vlahovic fairly, Ivan Toney fairly linked with us. Ollie Watkins has been linked with us, fairly established. Tammy Abraham, I don't think everybody's convinced by them. I'm more, as the days go on, if I'm honest with you, I'm more on taking a risk on like Boniface of Leverkusen or something like that. If he's 80, what's Eddie? I mean, come on now. Ivan Toney is clear of Eddie Nketiah. But Eddie's fairly becoming established. He's been capped by his country as well, and he's shown he can do a job at Arsenal. To be fair, Arsenal would do well to get 50 odd for Eddie Nketiah, but there's no way. I don't think you're implying that, but there's no way we can sit here and say if Tony's worth 80 million, what's Eddie Nketiah? And as we know, it's what you can hustle. It's not necessarily what the player's worth, really and truly. As we know, everyone in the Premier League is getting bread. No longer consider Partey an important player. Came back just in time for AFCON and will probably return with another injury after. Get a midfielder and a striker in January. I hear that. Partey still a key player for me, but, you know, for all his ability, the best ability you can have is availability. And as we become better as a football club, we need more confirmation over players, really. And quite frankly, Thomas Partey doesn't provide that. I do want to be fair to him because you were fit for around 30 plus games for Arsenal last season in the Premier League. But with him, you're never fully confident. When you read between the lines and you see, you know, what's going on with Ramsdale, but the fact that he got a new contract, talk around Benjamin White and a couple of other players, you know, Arteta and Edu are not stupid. They have probably discussed Partey's contract and whether or not they're going to give him a deal. Now, obviously, form can sway that, but the writing's probably on the wall, and at the summer, he's probably moved on, really. I wouldn't let him go in January. Sure, if you turn around and you bring in Zubamendi and this guy and that guy, fair enough, do what you want to do. But where Smith Rowe, Eddie Nketiah, Reece Nelson, Thomas Partey, Jorginho, any player, Ramsdale, if I haven't said that, any player that's been somewhat linked with a move away, obviously everyone's got a price, and if you can replace them, fair enough. But I am wary of paring down our squad and making ourselves lighter in January, really and truly. And to be honest with you, what sort of fee would you get for Partey? We know we're not going to get 45 million, and with a year left in the summer, we're probably just going to bite the bullet. I think last summer Arsenal were open to selling him, in my opinion, but it weren't one that were actively trying to force out, really. Is what it is. Is he really injured or is something else going on? Because we rarely see him injured in a game. We always hear he picked up something in training or whatever. Honestly, I can't comment because I don't know. Partey is Partey, but you can't build around him. Contract until 2025 and fitness. Summer is the time to transition away, really. And again, I touched on this several times, and I've actually done a video speaking about Odegaard to come out probably Friday. But indirectly touched on Thomas Partey. When you look at Arsenal's midfield, I'm not talking about guys that can play in the 8th row, Martin Odegaard, Fabio Vieira, Emil Smith-Rowe, Kai Havertz, if I haven't said that. Actual guys that are likely to line up behind Odegaard, like Odegaard's in the 10, and you've got Declan Rice and someone. Declan Rice is the only one that provides longevity, and there's confirmations around him, regardless of what Mikel Arteta wants to do, whether it's him as a 6 or an 8 or whatever he wants to do for the collective system. He's in there. You know, there's certain situations for Jorginho. There's certain situations for El Nene. Obviously, with Thomas Partey, he's a key player with Mikel Arteta. But if the man's not fit, it is irrelevant, really. And when you look at age and longevity, Partey, Jorginho, El Nene, they're on the wrong side of 30. I'm not saying that, you know, just because they're there, you need to move them on. You don't. Look how old Gundogan is. And, you know, Man City tried to keep him. Obviously, the ability and things are different. But we need to bring in a centre mid. And, you know, Edu and Arteta, you were central midfielders. And that's the one area for me that it genuinely makes me nervous. You know, injuries or key players being missing out can disrupt any team. But whatever you say about our defensive options, you've at this moment in time, you've got Ramsdale and Raya in goal. You've got the Tomiyasus, the Zinchenkos, the Timbers, the Benjamin Whites, the Salibas, the Gabriels, Kirior even. And, you know, I don't want to see Declan Rice play centre-back, but if worse comes to worse, Declan Rice has the ability to play there. When you look further forward and you see Trossard, Reece Nelson, Martinelli, Bukayo Saka, Gabriel Jesus, feel free if I've missed anyone else out. I do want a striker and a winger, but we're relatively comfy there. Midfield is Wolf, you know, because as decent as Jorginho's been, and I hope he spins the block because he was great away from home against Newcastle last season. We're going to need him to do that again. There's certain games. Jorginho's done well this season, did well against City even. But in the Chelsea game, him and Zinchenko on the transition is suicidal. Obviously, when Declan Rice was injured in the North London derby, you know, if El Nene came on and made a mistake, my point is redundant, but that there was a lot of space. Jorginho struggles with that, really, as you can see. So there's a role for El Nene and Jorginho, but they're not guys you can really bet on like that. Declan Rice is the only one, so it's scary. Who will start in goal, in your opinion? Probably Ramsdale today. And then when he gets another opportunity, I don't know, really, if I'm honest. We've got 2 replacements. El Nene and Jorginho. Partey still has a year, so we can pause on him, but the other 2 need replacement. With Partey, they might move him on because the only reason I think they move him on is because we might bring in other players to make him obsolete. Obviously, you know, we're probably going to spend a decent amount in the summer off the back of a big summer over the last 2 years. And, you know, I don't think it's more of a case of getting a fee for Partey. I think it's a case of you're probably on handsome wages. That's a chance to shed the wage bill. Now, obviously, our wage bill looks a lot healthier, but, you know, you've brought in Declan Rice. He's got to be on decent money. Kai Havertz has got to be on decent money. Saliba, Saka, Martinelli, Ramsdale, Benjamin White, potentially Odegaard, and any other players. They've got to be on decent money. So we've got to probably watch that. I think with Ramsdale, it's the chance in the summer to get a decent fee if they want to move him on. With Partey, you could get a respectable fee, but it's a chance of rebuilding our team, as one of you lot said, and also shedding the wage bill. So I have to see. Angelo Stiller, that could be decent. What do you guys What do you guys think is our best midfield without Partey? Because sooner or later, we should have a constant midfield. The chopping and changing can only go so far. I don't think we have one without Partey at this moment in time, man. I think there's little options you can run. You can run an Odegaard or a Smith Rowe and all of them guys in that role there. I have to, there's a role for El Nene because he's the closest thing to a 6 if Partey's not there. And obviously Declan Rice already is a 6. But I'd have to assume it's what we're seeing with Mikel Arteta already, with Odegaard in the 10, Declan Rice and Jorginho, really and truly. And as you know, you're playing a dangerous game. I'm not, Jorginho's done well and it's not a scapegoating thing, but you're playing a dangerous game. And I feel with the options we have at the moment, Smith Rowe can play there, Fabio can play there. We don't really have balance in the sense that they can play football, but when it's a time to be a bit of a tug and be robust and physical, we haven't really got that essentially. As much as I like the last 2 years and this season in particular, I'd say there's two things with the whole collective system that have kind of upset me is that we haven't really got to see Gabriel Jesus, Gabriel Martinelli and Saka play together on a consistent basis owing to injuries. And where midfield's concerned, we haven't really seen Thomas Partey, Declan Rice and Odegaard, which I feel at this moment in time has the right blend. As I said, right wing, specifically up front, they're two certified areas that we need to move in. And I can't begrudge anyone if they said that's a priority. But for me, the absolute priority, if we was only to sign one position in January, which I want to see more than one, I think you need a central midfielder. I am a bit, obviously, you look at this season and last season, even in the City game, football's a weird game. It's the team that started against City. Would you describe that as necessarily our strongest 11? But that's our best result so far of the season in the basis of we beat City, smashed the like button. But do I feel confident? I'll always be confident in my team. It is what it is. Football's a funny game. It's not one on paper. You need to go out there and do the job. But from now till the end of the year, there's some big games. What Christmas could potentially be ruined. I can't lie. The big thing for me was we can't rock up at Anfield without Thomas Partey and Declan Rice, really, if I'm honest with you. And also, like somebody said, the international competitions kind of pee me off a bit, really. I'd never begrudge anyone representing their nation, but from a selfish Arsenal point of view, we're missing Partey anyways. If and when he is fit and able to play for Ghana again, he's obviously going to go off to the AFCON. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but Tomiyasu, who's probably the player of the moment, he's going off to the Asia Cup games. I think you always have to let players play for their country, but playing devil's advocate, if I was Mikel Arteta and there's a hint of being able to persuade these players to allow it and not go, I'm not going to sit here and lie. I might say forget about it, really, even though I don't think that's right. And we're missing Jesus and Arteta. Obviously, you don't know what Arteta's got up his sleeve. He's shown that he can play very coy and things like that, but to hear Gabriel Jesus might not be there for weeks, Partey's not there, whether they're going to start, we need all our players essentially, really. And I'm at the point now where we've been seeing this with several players. So as much as I love Mikel Arteta, you made your bed, so we've got a lie in it, really and truly. I don't know what the club tried to or tried not to do in the summer in terms of signings, but we made our bed, really. So we're going to have to lie in it, man. We don't need a striker to replace Eddie. We need one to replace Jesus. I love the guy, but it's like having a Ferrari that you can't drive. Arteta really dropped the ball with Havertz for 65 million. We would have got a really good 8. I hope to be proven wrong with Kai Havertz in the sense of I don't think anyone can accuse me of scapegoating the guy, of attacking the guy. I think there is some use. I like some things you do in your game, but I'm yet to be moved by Kai Havertz. Now, I hope that this 10-odd game period in the Prem, the next 10 games or the next 5 years or whatever, we're saying, boy, it was a tough period for Havertz, really. He's not the same as Odegaard, but Odegaard didn't have a good period when he's joined the club. So I'm hoping he can turn it around. But for 65 million, it does look like a waste because you can play everywhere. But what are you, Kai Havertz? Are you a false 9? Are you a 10? Are you an 8? People like doing all this, he played on the right-hand side for Leverkusen and all of that stuff, which is great. But we really have to go back to his time in Germany to be waffling. I do think sometimes he's been unnecessarily criticized. I think a lot of the time the legit criticisms of signing Kai Havertz and how he's played, I think fans are bang on the money, really, away from the scapegoating. 65 million does look a lot like a waste of money. And I'm yet to be moved by Kai Havertz, really. I'm yet to go there and watch a game and be like, wow, Kai did something great. Like, don't get it twisted. The last couple of cameos you've come on against Chelsea, against City, you've done well. You've done all right. But I'm yet to be wowed. And for someone that's a German international, a Champions League winner, a wealth of experience at a relative young age coming into a quote-unquote young squad, I'm yet to be moved. Like, we all know Kai Havertz isn't Zinchenko or Jesus, but and indirectly Odegaard. But when we signed Havertz, it was, for me, it was like, I'm looking at you in the same vein I'm looking at them. You lot have been these young players in and around. You lot need to be leaders, really. Right now, it's like Kai Havertz needs his handheld. And for me, Havertz looks best off the bench right now for 65 million. That ain't really a great claim, if I'm honest with you. And I've said this before, but when you look in the summer, for whatever you say about Raya, for example, you could see, all right, two good keepers. They're fighting, may the best man win. You could see what Timber's going to bring to the table, whether he's going to play right back, centre back, or left back. You can see evidently what Declan Rice brings. With Kai Havertz, for me, it was more, you know what, I'm not really convinced in this, but everyone can make mistakes, and I'm not going to back you blindlessly, but you're my gaffer. I believe in you. You show me enough reason to, for now, give you the benefit of the doubt kind of thing, you know, really. And if that's what you want, it's not a snap decision, in it. We didn't just wake up and say we're going to sign Kai Havertz. They have to have thought about it. So it's more of a, all right, Arteta, I'll see how this one goes. But that's why, for me, it's more on Arteta, Kai Havertz. Now, obviously, Kai Havertz has got to pull his pants up and play well for himself, but no one told you to sign him. Like, nobody told you to sign him, really. You could see what he's doing in a Chelsea shirt. And for me, he just needs to puff out his chest. You need to I think Kai Havertz could learn a lot from Granit Xhaka. You're never going to be everyone's cup of tea. You probably never are going to convince everyone, but that don't mean you can't play good, really. And regardless of what us fans think, you know, it's not that Arteta's opinion means more than us, but if the world is saying Kai Havertz ain't good enough and Mikel Arteta is bought you for 65 million and he's playing you, for me, that's still the confidence you need. Because let's be honest, fans are fickle. It's a very big if, but if Kai Havertz puts in 10 great games in a row now, I'm not going to say he's going to convince everyone, but nobody cares about the past, really. You know, he won't be the first player nor the last that is criticized when they sign for a club or it doesn't have an easy ride. He just needs to look at Odegaard as inspiration. Now, I think there's a lot of difference in that. At least not really the last few games, but with Odegaard, you can quote unquote see him, really. Like, I don't really see Havertz. I don't want to talk about defensive metrics and watching games again and, you know, nitpicking at things, which I think, you know, there's credibility in that. But if we're doing that every game, boy, like, football's a 90-minute game, you know, I need to see it. If I'm honest, bring up yourself, H, for finally catching me live. That 65 on Havertz is a total waste. Let's be honest, that was enough for Barella already, proven player. I must admit, I did think we'll buy two central midfielders. And based on how Kai Havertz played initially, and obviously Declan Rice, I have to assume we've already done that, essentially. But I did kind of think, you know what, there might be a young Lavia there or someone of that ilk, someone that's a younger Partey that can come in when he's not there, or the inevitable injuries. And as time goes on, they displace him, sign of thing. The one saving grace is signing Declan Rice, in my humble opinion, because it's not that we don't miss Partey, but it's like at least there's a tug in the middle, in it. There's someone that's certified in the middle of the park for Arsenal Football Club. If we did not get Declan Rice over the line, I don't even want to dream about what Arsenal would have looked like. I would have just asked Arteta if I could. You know what? You might as well just play Smith Rowe, Fabio Vieira, you know, just get as many playmakers into that team as you want, because we're playing a dangerous game in midfield. You know, again, couple of injuries, God forbid, but Zinchenko's never organically started in midfield for Arsenal Football Club. That might have to be an angle. You know, Kirill, I don't think you will have a future in midfield, but you did play central defensive mid for a year in Italy. That might have to be something Mikel Arteta demands, really and truly. So we'll have to see. Frankie de Jong would be lit, as would Barella, but they cost you ching. But saying that, 65 million, I don't have the names to hand in it, but 65 million, it could have got us a bit more bang for our buck, really. What did Kai do at Chelsea that made Arteta want him at the carpet? I don't know. All I would say is kind of what I've just said about how he, quote unquote, you know, has a wealth of experience in the young side. I would say the versatility is probably a trait that attracted Arteta, but there's no good being able to play everywhere if you're not really certain in one. Like, you look at Tomiyasu, can play left back, can play right back. At a push, I believe he can play centre back. Benjamin White can technically play a midfield, but can play as well as he does at fullback, as well as in the center of our defense. You look at who else have you got? Martinelli can play all across the front three. Saka can play on the left and the right. Trossard can play in the front four positions. Smith Rowe can do 1-2 things, and there's probably some other things. With Kai Havertz, you can do everything, but what are you? That's the thing with him at his age and the money spent. What are you? You know, you speak to 10 Arsenal fans, and Mikel Arteta will tell you something different. And I think Mikel Arteta has been very coy, really. And whenever he speaks about Kai Havertz, he never specifically says what he is. He talks about his height, which is probably another benefit, but he never speaks about specifically what he is. And he does about other players, and then talk about their versatility. What are you? You know, you speak to 10 Arsenal fans, he's a false nine, he's a centre mid, he's a cam, He needs to play on the right, not the left, which on the left he did initially. It all depends. And I got a lot of, unfortunately, you know, they're good people, but they support Chelsea. I got a lot of supporters, friends that support Chelsea. They're literally saying, you man are having the same arguments that we've been having, really and truly. Declan Rice injury to kill our season. Rebuke that, man. Rebuke that. Arteta is unnecessarily obsessed with versatility. I just wish he signed specialists. I think you've got to be obsessed with versatility. I think it's a trait that you need, but, you know, you can be a jack of all trades and master of none. I would say with Mikel Arteta, he's got that trait. Like what's that J. Cole bar? If you don't want to be saved, don't save her. Like Arteta's on this captain saver whole thing, really and truly. It worked with Odegaard, you know, really. It kind of worked with, it weren't your player, but Saliba initially showed him a bit of love. We've gone from strength to strength. You know, you gave Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus, they were sightings at City. You've made them wifey material now, you know. And then where I look at Jadon Sancho and Kai Havertz, Sancho who's been linked with, it's like Arteta seems to have that trait of I can fix everyone. Like Arteta, you're my guy, you're my manager, but we're not miracle workers out here, man. And as I said, Arteta's got to live or die by. At the end of the day, we all know what Kai Havertz is about. I have to hold Mikel Arteta accountable if it doesn't work because he cost a lot of money. Fair enough. Fabio Vieira, I think, has got a role here, people. Smash the like button, by the way. Fabio Vieira, I believe, has got a role here. And let's just throw Lokonga into that. You know, let's just say Fabio Vieira didn't at least show he could be a squad player. At the very least, you bought him for about 20-odd million quid, which anytime a player don't work, they're all expensive. But at least there's a get-out clause. Lokonga, boy, I don't know if there's a get-out clause for him, but it's somewhat of a low risk. With Havertz, he's going to be on fat wages. It costs a fat transfer fee. I don't even know how Chelsea got 60. Didn't Chelsea spend 70 million on him? I don't know how they got 65 off us for him. You know, and I don't know how we'd be lucky to get 60 million from him. And I don't want to. This ain't an attack on Kai Havertz because I do think there's some use. I am rooting for him all the way, but I can't sit here and lie to you and act like everything's fine and dandy when it's not. Because at the end of the day, we're in the Champions League now. Like, it's mad to say it about a Champions League winner as well. But at this moment in time, how does Kai Havertz make us a better team? How does he make us closer to going as far in the Champions League as God willing it takes us? How does he get us in his own way closer to Manchester City? Now, I'm sure Mikel Arteta could answer these questions in the press. And I can't have this conversation with Arteta. I'd love to say, man to a man, big man thing, like, what is the angle with Kai Havertz? Like, what did you see in it? And then honestly, hear his thoughts. You know, you look at the other signings, you can see, for whether you rate Raya or not, you can see what he brings and how in his own way he takes us closer to City. You can see that with Rice. You can see that with Timber. With Kai Havertz, I don't know. The only luxury I'll give to Donny is that the jury's still out. You've been at the team 2 minutes, in it really, but it's a charity case. Like, you should be coming here and regulated. You've got youngers like Saka saying, no, give him the penalty, man. It's a charity case thing. What annoys me about Havertz is the price tag. It's just too high. If it was below 40, I'd accept it. We've been linked with Santiago Jimenez from Feyenoord. What are your thoughts? I like him. You know, again, obviously I would like an Osimhen and them established names there. But if we are to take a risk, which to be fair with you, you know, Osimhen, Garassi, Boniface, they'll all cost a crap load amount of money. Them kind of guys that ain't been on the scene too much. I like Jimenez, man. I don't know if Spain's an appeal to him. Obviously, he's Mexican. He speaks the language. You hear Spurs are linked with him, Real Madrid and all them clubs. You know, Real Madrid probably going to get Mbappe and or Haaland at some point, but you can make a case of there's a spot for you of sorts there. Spurs and Chelsea, it seems like there's a number 9 spot for you there. Obviously, for any striker coming into this club, they should sit there and say, boy, I'm better than Nketiah, but you better pack your bags. And Jesus, you can't score goals or stay fit. You better pack your bags. I'm going to take your spot. But at the same time, if you're a striker, whether that's Toney, whether that's Osimhen, whether that's this or that, you might look at it and say, boy, you know what? Eddie Nketiah's got a role there. Arteta seems to start him. He started a decent amount. Jesus is the number 1. On one hand, I ain't scared of no one. I'm coming to take spaces. But, you know, minutes are currency and there's too many, man. Price tag for Havertz doesn't concern me currently. I understand he's finding his feet. And if in a season or two he still ain't found them, it's fair to call him out. Until then, he has my back. And I hear that. And I don't listen. It's not my money. I don't care. But what I would say, the only thing I disagree, we have a season, but do we have to? The better we get, you know, you need patience for players, but the better we get, the less time. You know, let's be honest. You look at Saka was always, you know, Saka was one of them young players that's always going to thrive. He was always going to get an opportunity. But one thing, probably Chelsea now to a slight degree, but one thing that helped Smith Rowe at the time, Joe Willock when he was about to a slight degree, and Nketiah is, for years, we mismanaged our football club and we just simply didn't have good enough players. There's an angle for you to get games, really. The better we get as a club where you look left and right, there's actually good players, the less quote-unquote patience we have for everyone. So How long do we wait on Havertz? And I think Arteta obviously is going to wait on him, but he's clocked that already. Start of the season, Kai Havertz is playing week in, week out. As the season's gone on, boy, I need 3 points. We need to do the collective comes before the individuals. Let's clip him. You do your thing from the bench, you might get a chance again. But boy, you know, Arteta, whether Arteta, at the end of the day, all that matters is 3 points for him, really. That's why you're seeing whether you rate Ramsdale or not, he's betting on Raya. That's his guy. He's dropped Kai Havertz. And that's why at this moment in time, for whatever reason, Smith Rowe can't really buy a start, really, because he thinks there's stronger options. The manager has to protect himself. Yes, it's a squad game. Everyone's going to get opportunities. Whether you take your opportunities is down to you. How good is this Garassi guy? Because the hype is moving mad. Been on the scene a while. Like him a lot. But yeah, Sesko links, bring him to the carpet, really. But then he's going to still need time, really. Toney is not guaranteed to hit the ground running after so long out. It's a huge gamble. Any striker we buy, in my opinion, is looking like a gamble. To be honest, I can see the vision with Havertz, but it's probably the wrong time to take that risk given the other glaring needs of the squad. And obviously the void Granit Xhaka left. I would have loved for Xhaka to stay. I think, you know, in this transitional period, first year back in the Champions League, Arteta's obviously in hindsight showing us different like gears to our system. I would have loved Xhaka to stay, really. But if the man said he wants to cut, he has to cut. And as much as I think Xhaka at times was underappreciated at the club, I don't think the void he's left, you know, you can overrate that, but it is overstated because of what we haven't done in the transfer market. As much as I like Xhaka, had we have signed a half-decent midfielder in the same vein of Declan Rice, we're not waffling about Granit, really. You know, it's hardly like replacing Petit or Vieira or Cesc Fabregas or someone of that ilk, respectfully to him. Took Suarez a whole season to start scoring for Barca. Not every player can perform like a star straight away. Let's hope we can mention Kai Havertz in that same vein. DG, which player did you meet face-to-face that made you starstruck? Not a player in particular, but I've said this before. Zola, without a doubt, speaking to Zola. Close as I got to Arsene Wenger, the way he made football. Soft-spoken, man, the way he spoke about football, the way he made it make sense. Yeah, man, and he's talking to me, and I'm just thinking in my head, like, I'm listening, I'm taking it all in. I'm you know, in dreamland, it's Zola. Whether he, you know, it's Zola, really, isn't it? Like, simple as that. He's talking to me, and honestly, I'm looking at him like I'm looking at the camera now, and psychologically, I'm just thinking, boy, this is Zola. Do you know you're Zola? Sort of thing. In my opinion, with the striker market, it doesn't apply me because the way we play, our strikers won't bag goals. I hear that, but we need a striker that can bag. You know, City, you could argue they didn't necessarily need Haaland, but they went and grabbed the minute. So as much as I feel our system and false nines and our strikers aren't necessarily the go-to men, I think we do need a striker. And I know the game's changed, but on one hand, how feasible is it to challenge for a Premier League title, allegedly, without a bagsman, really? Because Eddie's gone and got free, and I think he's got a decent record and we like him. Is Eddie someone you can bet your house on? Gabriel Jesus, I love the guy, but goal scoring is the one mediocre thing, as shown at City, currently at Arsenal, regardless of the injuries, really. Apart from the Champions League nights, like Gabriel Jesus is an enigma, in my opinion. Like, the difficult finishes, he makes them look easy. The easy finishes, he makes them look hard. He's a key player for Brazil as well. Goals are not one of those things for him, really. And that was the trick of Gabriel Jesus. With more game time and going from a squad player to a more regular, you know, and being the go-to man, could you take all of that stuff that makes you Gabriel Jesus and that City fans, Brazil fans, and now Arsenal fans love about him and add goals? Right now, the jury's still out. Yes, he was injured last season, but still got 11 goals. So had he have been fit, you don't know. I think Gabriel Jesus has the ability, and he's far too good to not get 20, 30 goals in all comps or the league or whatever, but fundamentally hasn't done it, really. And you know, I've said it before, the only guy that I class in my head as a goal scorer at Arsenal Football Club that's been here, and I've seen it in our colours, is Bukayo Saka, because you've done it for the last 2-3 years. Martinelli, I think you're a bagsman, but you've only done it for 1 year, really. So it would surprise me if you don't have a healthy return of goals, but your catalogue isn't the strongest. Trossard, minutes are adjusted. You're a bit of a squad player. I back him to score goals, but I don't know if you're going to get that healthy return. Martin Odegaard, first real standout season, also 15 league goals or something. It should have been 16 for Martinelli, but, you know, going away to Old Trafford, you're never going to get the benefit of the doubt unless you're City, like last game. I don't know if you're going to do that. So I think when we're now talking that harshness of winning trophies, and when it gets to the nitty-gritty, I think we have got commitment. Players can chip in. You know, there is goals all around the team. But Saka's the only one I'll bet my house on is going to, like, bag goals, really, if I'm honest with you. So I have to see which number 8. Honestly, I don't have a clue. He's not at 8, he's a 6. I would love to see what Zuba... Promise Zuba Mendy everything under the sun, man. You're going to play every game. You know, Arteta Spanish, do the Spanish link-up. Tell him there's bare gal from London that want to chat to you. Get over here immediately. Would like him a lot, man. So I'm grateful for Declan Rice. I must admit, every time I do the watch-alongs or watch Arsenal, sometimes I look at Declan Rice. I'm like, we really bagged this guy, you know, like, where have you been all my life? Like, where have you been the last few years? Like, brother, you're Declan Rice. You're sick. You're a quality player. And for me, I only think Declan Rice has scratched the surface. Right now, he's doing like what he was doing in a West Ham shirt in a great way. I'm happy with that. I think next year you will now see him do that sort of 8 stuff and how Mikel Arteta is changing the way he thinks and stuff. And to be fair, on the eve of the West Ham game, what he's got in 3 games, he's had 3 goal contributions. Fair enough. I'm overselling it a tiny bit with the Eddie Nketiah assist at the weekend. And obviously, you know, Jesus against Sevilla, and then he bagged against Chelsea as well. So he is adding that. And Declan Rice has come out of his own mouth in previous interviews. He said, I believe I should be getting 10 goals a season. You know, obviously, we're never going to look at Declan Rice as, you know, a Lampard or a Gerrard or them kind of guys there, or a goal scoring midfielder. But if he can add goals to his game, I'm all here for it, really. I can see Havertz improvement off the bench. If it does come to the case he's a super sub, then we'll have to swallow our pride on the price tag. Whatever works will be. The only aim is forward. But it is what it is, man. DG, apparently Dani Olmo has a 60 million release clause. Would you take him at the carpet? Yep, immediately. Every striker is a gamble, man. Every striker, whether you go for one of these guys that, you know, have been on the scene for about 18 months, whether it's someone, you know, the Ossimens, every signing is a gamble. Just going to have to work, really, because I believe there's many ways to take this system up. But I think for me, if you could bring me 2 centre midfielders, an 8 and a 6, if you could bring me a wing on, you know, in the Pedro Neto ilk that can perform on the left and the right, challenge for Saka or play with Saka, and a striker that's going to bag goals, then I think we're really in the money, really and truly, if I'm completely honest with you. The future could also be signing a high volume 10 and making Odegaard a full-fledged 8. But where are these high volume 10s? You know, the 10s are dead. It's more like 8.5. I have a funny feeling we'll buy a defender Diamande before we buy a striker. I mean, Sporting Lisbon are going to try and take us to the cleaners in January over it. We were linked with him before then. And when you look at his links, Gurhey links, I do think Arteta would like another, I don't want to quite say centre-back, but a defender. And we have to be grateful for Rice's signing. Big up you lot, people, and keep your thoughts coming. Don't forget, if you're on YouTube, people, you can see the pin message. Smash the like button on that video for me. We will be live from 6:30 to watch or begin our watch along for West Ham United versus Arsenal in the EFL Cup, man. I wonder if Thingy will get booed. I would love Havertz. Come a long way from that ACL injury, but, you know, everyone and their dog in Europe probably wants him. They're probably watching his development for Leverkusen. Obviously, there's a Euros. Forgive me if I'm wrong. The Euros is in Germany. So yeah, man, the sky's the limit for that guy, if I'm completely honest with you. It really is. Love your talking points, people. Love your conversations. Again, whether you're on Twitch, Twitter, or YouTube, you lot make the platform. Let's get into the nitty-gritty and all these things. Keep everything coming, folks, but let's get into some stuff. Let's see what Mikel Arteta has said on injuries and all of that jazz. Let's see what the papers are saying. But first, I did see someone, in fact, bang on the money. Appreciate you. I can't pronounce your name. I won't, Cap, and I don't want to disrespect you, but thank you very much for that. You've asked me, do I expect some rotations? Surely, yes. But then at the same time, with the changes made against Bournemouth, you just never know what Mikel Arteta is thinking. So my lineup for today would be, hopefully this doesn't flop me and everyone's name is able to be found. I'd put Ramsdale in there. I think White's got to play, you know. I'll be real with you. White, you got 2 games this week, you know. I'll be absolutely real with you. You could make a case of Zinchenko, but I just want a bit of defensive solidity going away from home. So I think Tomiyasu would come in for me. Kirill, you deserve, I'll be absolutely honest, you deserve to play. Kirill deserves to stay in the team, and I wouldn't be against it, but I just want my first choice centre-back pairing, really and truly. If anything, bring people off. In midfield, we ain't got much. So if I'm honest with you, I'm putting that man in. I know he started at the weekend. Declan Rice, you're going to have to play against your former team, my bro. Like, I would, you know, you could say Jorginho, Odegaard, and Rice, so that probably mean no Smith Rowe. To be fair, you could play Jorginho, you know, but Jorginho is probably likely to play against Newcastle, and we ain't exactly got a lot of midfield options. Odegaard, let's get that form back on task. So that's him. Obviously, I think Nketiah has to play. We ain't got much other options up there. On there. Okay. Any reason why these names they're violated, man? Why isn't Eddie coming up? Okay, maybe that's a sign of things to come. But yeah, Eddie Nketiah in the striker role. No clue why his name won't come up. Oh, I do want to play Martinelli, but I feel it's harsh on Trossard. I think Trossard will come in for me. I ain't gonna cap to you lot. Big up Nelson and that. Saka, you're playing. I can't lie to you. And then Nketiah up front, really. So I'd go Ramsdale, Tomiyasu, White, Gabriel Saliba, Rice, Smith Rowe, Odegaard. Although I'm starting to feel, do you go with Jorginho in that role? Because I do expect West Ham, that midfield battle, they are quite good on the transition. So that's why I'm playing Declan Rice. And that's something Jorginho struggles with. You know, we'll leave it like that. So yeah, Ramsdale, for me anyways, and it probably won't be this, Ramsdale, Tomiyasu, White, Gabriel and Saliba, Rice, Smith Rowe, Odegaard, Trossard and Saka to the left and right. And I don't know why it's not coming up, but Eddie and Nketiah through the middle. Big up yourself, FK. Type in Edward. Is that even, I swear that ain't even Eddie's name. Hey, big up you. So yeah, Eddie, oh, pick him up. I genuinely thought it was Eddie, but yeah. Say that one more time just because Eddie's there and I appreciate that, okay? Ramsdale, Tomiyasu, White, Gabriel Saliba, Rice, Smith Rowe and Odegaard, Trossard and Saka to the left and right, and Eddie through the middle. I'd rest Deckers for the Newcastle game. It's true, but this is a special game for him. I'm not going to lie. I want to take every cup seriously. I hear it, but I must admit, I don't believe in, you could make a case of, you know what, as I said, this would be my lineup, but just to paint a picture, you could make a case of potentially and remove Declan. Oh, we got more issues here. Oh, thank the Lord, Jorginho's up there. You can make a case of that, in my opinion. Kai Havertz, Odegaard, and Jorginho. Now that I say it, I do think Kai starts. I think Odegaard will start because he's rested at the weekend. I just want to protect Jorginho's legs, man, because we're going to need you for Newcastle. I'll go with Declan Rice, man. Obviously, he's tough as old boots. I'm sure this is a magical day for him, really. It's the Declan Rice derby. So I have to see. Eddie short for Edward now, you can't rest Rice for this. That lineup's calm. Edward and Nketiah, man are acting like this is the FA Cup. It's true, but I don't want to go out of this, man. We're in it to win it, really. And I swear City are out of this. We might as well try a thing. And it's good practice because whether we're in the Champions League or the League Cup or whatever, these players, if we keep qualifying for these things, you need to get comfortable with playing twice a week. I understand the need for rest, but it all depends, man. I'd rather Jorginho take Rice's position for tonight, but then Rice is going to have to come on. I think we should rest Saliba and play Kirill instead. That's a shout. You have to go 2 left-sided centre-backs. Do you know what? I like Kirill. It'll definitely, for the players that came in at the weekend, it will definitely be a different sort of test. Tomiyasu is the one I do want to see tonight. So that means we're going to see Zinchenko, if I'm honest with you. Not that I got anything against Zinchenko. Big up DG. With these centre-back links, do you think there's a possibility Gabriel could leave in the summer? I mean, there's a possibility everyone could leave. He signed a new deal. So if you want to pay top money, pay top money. I do think Saliba's got the higher ceiling, but I do think Gabriel is underappreciated within world football and for a large period underappreciated in Arsenal fans. I think the sky's the limit for him. I think he's one of the best centre-backs in the Prem. I still think he's got that bozo moment, but I think he's spacing out when these things happen. I don't think he gets credit for, it's like good cop, bad cop. Like Gabriel's the aggressive one, Saliba's the majestic, mop-up stuff, really. All depends, really. I just think Arteta wants another centre-half, really, and it'd be a bit harsh for Kirill, but if we could get into that realm, ain't City's always had, maybe not so much this year, but wasn't there a time they had Laporte and a bunch of centre-backs, really? So I'm all for it. I do think Arteta would like one. Let Jorginho start. I want to win it. Reece for Saka. I hear that, but Saka, you give me an hour, innit? Give me an hour. If West Ham won't be easy, but if we play West Ham and we score 2, 3, 4 by half time, Saka come off. But Saka, you got to give me 45 minutes to an hour, man. No matter what competition we're in, we should go to win in every single one. Champions League, EPL, FA Cup, League Cup, etc. I mean, as Edu said, Champions League, let's enjoy it, my guy. Jorginho isn't mobile enough to do the 6 role. I mean, he does do it, though. A bit of a different one. I just don't know if Jorginho and Kai Havertz, again, like with the football, we could do all right. Without it's crazy. We need Tomiyasu against Bowen. Once we get Diamande, our back line is complete. We've been linked with Gurr here as well, so we have to see. As much as I rate the heavily strengthened lineup, I'd definitely rather rest Rice and Saka for the Newcastle game. Nelson could definitely cook. I hear that, really, because, yes, I would rather get 3 points at the weekend than necessarily, if you offer me a Newcastle 3 points or going through to the next round of the Cup, I'm being a hypocrite. I definitely want to stay in the Cup, or any Cup we're in. but I would like the 3 points if I'm honest. Praying our players don't get injured. We don't need any more injuries, man. We rebuke it, man. We rebuke it. My prediction team: Ramsdale, White, Tommy, Gabriel, Kirill, Jorginho, Smith Rowe, Nelson, Vieira, Eddie, and Nketiah. To be fair, even young Fabio could get a look in. Really. What are you saying for Sesko? Would need a lot of time and we'd need to be very patient with him. But I like the look of him and I think he could do all right. If you haven't smashed the like button, make sure you're doing such, people. So yeah, that's the lineup I will go with. As I said, you know, you've got to be shameless with self-promotion in this world. So please do me a favor and smash the like button on that. Let's keep going. Let's see what Mikel Arteta has said in his press conference before we continue with all these tabs in it. We've got a lot to get through. On team selection and if it's impacted by our upcoming game against Newcastle. Nothing. We just have to beat West Ham. It's a competition that we have the chance to progress and win a trophy. And our mindset is going to be focused just on West Ham. I mean, that's what Mikel was going to say to the public. But obviously, he has to consider 2 games this week, which has been the case more or less since the season kicked off. On the importance of this competition and what it can do for the players. I mean, how many of them won it? How many of them, their trophy cabinets are littered? Anytime your, football career is short. I know us football fans, Arsenal, we've seen, some of us have seen us win the Premier League. We'd all love to win the champs. FA Cup is our cup. But for footballers, there's no guarantee you're going to win a trophy. So if you're in it, win it in it. He said, doing what we are doing, being consistent and playing better than the opponent tomorrow against West Ham is going to be a really tough game. It always is away from home against them. And we want to continue with the momentum and form that we're in. That's it. I mean, all we need to remember is the last time we played West Ham at their stadium last year. On if it's a similar approach to our last cup game against Brentford, yes, and the context is a bit different because we've got some injuries. We don't have too much availability in terms of the squad, but I prepared the game in the same way we did there to try and win it. On Declan Rice, he said he's likely, he's fit and can be involved. It'll be his first time back at his old club and a beautiful moment, I think, for him. On if going back to his former club can be helpful for us. I think it's beautiful. I had the experience to do it a few times. Then you really see what they think of you and what you left at the club. It's a really good way to measure your experience and your reality within the reality of people who share moments with you, which is true, really. Yarabels for the kids. I think we've gone a long way away from that, but I hear you. We all hope Declan Rice gets a good reception. If he doesn't, it is what it is. You're at Arsenal now. On Eddie Nketiah, his hat-trick and momentum, he said both. We have to be conscious of the amount of minutes they play. He has started a lot of games in the Premier League, which is true. But I think in terms of how we utilize him, I think he's fresh and in a really good moment. Players like Eddie have to be used, whether we do it as a starter or on the bench, we'll see. Now I'm starting to feel, are you going to play Kai Havertz as a striker? I mean, Messi deserved to win the Ballon d'Or. I feel sorry for Haaland. If Messi didn't exist, you should have won that, but Messi thing. Moving away from that, we all love the fact that Odegaard, Ramsdale and Saka have been were nominated or on the shortlist for the Ballon d'Or. Hopefully one day an Arsenal man can win that. I think it's been 15 years since a Premier League player has won the Ballon d'Or, which was obviously Cristiano. On if Odegaard will be rested. We rested him the other day. So it's how long we rest him for and how we manage him now with the minutes and rhythm that he needs as well to get his best. So yeah, we had the opportunity to do it and we didn't use him at the end. That was a good upload for him. On if rest is the only way to treat his injury. It's not only that, but there's also a lot of things that you have to do. It's impossible to play with no niggles in football. At this level, when you have games every 3 days, it's impossible. If you try to do that, you better stay in bed. Amen. Because I don't know any players who are constantly perfect and to be in the best possible condition. So you have to adapt. On if he should be commended for wanting to play on despite the injury. Every player is the same. And I'm not going to lie. Is Mikel Arteta saying a little white lie in relation to Odegaard? In that he's not wrong. Everyone has little knocks. And obviously form is temporary, class is permanent. Odegaard will be back. But if you're Mikel Arteta and you know your player's been, Norway have had disappointment in the international break. He hasn't been playing quite well. As much as, the club make a case of we don't listen to outside noises, they don't live in a bubble, where they could be driving home and they see a Sky Sports bulletin. Could he be being a little cute and clever? You come out and say a man's carrying an injury. Some fans will say, so what? You still selected him. It is what it is. But some people like myself and you lot will sit here and go, you know what? I still think what I think about Odegaard, but he hasn't been fully fit. Let's ease off him a little bit. So I hope it is a little white lie. He said they're willing to push the boundaries. We have players who have been 6 weeks out and they're back in either 3.5 or 4 weeks for big matches and made an incredible impact. When you talk about changes in mentality, this is a big thing. Not only him, but all the physios and doctors, everyone pushing you in the same direction. Your teammates pushing you to demand you to be here because you are needed. And that's what we do. On Gabriel Jesus, this is where it starts getting a bit scary, and the time frame. He said, with him, I'm honestly not going to put any because I did it once and it got it totally wrong. We need to be cautious because we need to treat it in the right way. He's already pushing everybody and wants to be back as quickly as possible, and we need him, so that's great. I mean, just make sure you're there for Liverpool. Partey, make sure you're there for Liverpool in December because they have the potential to ruin Christmas. Eating dinner while watching Arsenal later, what more could you want? Big up yourself, man. So yeah, no clue on when Jesus will return. On the experience in midfield and the importance of having older players, it is. I think age is something, but after experiences that those boys had and the human qualities of those are exceptional. So you just mentioned Mo, the way he lifted us for those 6 or 7 minutes on the pitch after 10 months out, the way everyone looks at him is just fundamental for me. I always said that he's one of the most important players because of what he brings to the team, even when he's not playing. And I think that could be extended to Ramsdale as well, and slightly Tomiyasu. 6 weeks, oh, please, man. The FA should make that under 22s or something. Harsh, man. Scrolling all the way down, he bigged up Charlie Patino. He said there's always a pathway to get back. And when we make decisions on those players, it's always to keep an eye on them and see if we can evolve the squad in a way. And the first thing that we do is look internally. On the timescale of Thomas Partey's injury, short and sweet, he said, I think he'll be out for weeks. I don't know how long, but he's got another appointment today and we'll see more after that. So he's not said Jesus is going to be out for time. He's kind of put a dampener on it and been a bit cautious, but there's a small element of optimism of such. With Partey, he'll be out for weeks. When last did we see Mikel Arteta be like kind of blunt with it? That tells you everything. Partey posting on his story like he's in the squad. Wait. On if there is a wider concern about his injuries, there has to be a wider concern about Thomas Partey's injuries, man. The best trait you could have for his quality is being available, and then the knock-on effects that we have in the squad. Now, you could sit there rightly so and say, well, Arteta, this has been an inevitable of Partey. We probably needed centre mids in the summer market anyway, so we made our bed. We're gonna have to lie in it, and you're gonna have to face the music. But facts, really, it is a big concern when Thomas is fit and available. He's been part of our team. We've seen the results and the impact he's had. This season, we've had more protection, especially for that reason, because we know in the last 2 seasons what has happened and the result it had on the team. We had to address that, and now it has happened. It can happen in football, and I'm so sorry for him because I think he is doing every single thing he can do right to be there. He was gutted, and we are for him, but he needs to lift himself up again with our support and go again because he's a player that is critical for us. On the importance of the cup, he said, yes, I live it exactly the same as the Premier League. I have the same feeling in my tummy, the same uncertainty and the same way to prepare, and I'm going to be there closer to the game. I just want to win the game for sure. On if this could be a platform for other trophies, finally, as he said, I do, even if you're doing rotation, the role of the players that are committed to challenging for this trophy or this game, I think it's critical for them to show what they can do when they are really important and given a chance, and when they're in or out the team, how you're going to approach the game, and are you going to win the game for the team? I think if you want to grow as a team and you don't have that mindset, it is very difficult. So that mindset of every 3 days and being able to do it in different ways and different contexts is when you have a big game next week, or you just played in the Champions League or another big game here, it's okay. What is the behavior of the team and how they respond, I think, is very important. And that's the thing with Partey, man. That's why I said earlier, to be fair to him, he was available for 30-odd games in the Premier League last season, which is a shame, man, really, with what's going on with Partey. So, yeah, we've gone over that with the injuries, people, which isn't of any help. Again, with Partey being linked with clubs in the summer and obviously his contract and now the injury, we're going to be linked with a bunch of midfielders, and he's also going to be linked with a move away from the club. This article has said Mikel Arteta has reportedly added La Liga duo Martin Zubimendi and Tchouaméni to his list of January targets. Zubimendi, who we've been linked with for the last year. Tchouaméni, who links are coming, but I can't see Real Madrid selling him. If they do, they're going to probably want a similar fee to Declan Rice, and he'd be crazy to go because Real Madrid are building something. Mbappe and or Haaland at some point are going to go over there. They're just giving new deals to Camavinga, Rodrigo, Vinicius. Jude Bellingham is, doing what he's doing. You've got Arda Güler to come on the scene. They're littered with quality. It's Real Madrid, isn't it? If they want to let him go, bring him to the carpet, people. But reading between the lines, I think that tells you Arteta maybe wants a midfielder. Whether we get Zubimendi or Tchouaméni in the summer, much less January, is another thing. The dream is free. The hustle is sold separately. Partey's also been linked with a move to Juventus on loan. I mean, Juventus, unless you've got better physios or you lot can do something, the man's not going to stay fit, is he? So it makes it a bit of a myth. So moving away from that, once again, we've gone over that. AC Milan have been linked with a central midfielder at Arsenal in Charlie Patino. As you know, he's contracted until 2025. He's on loan at Swansea, and it's a question of his development and if there's a pathway really and truly. we'll have to see. This article has said he won't come cheap and could demand a fee of 25 million euros, which I don't want to sell Charlie, but 25 million euros for someone that's been at Blackpool and Swansea, not really had a crack at things at Arsenal. If that could be reinvested, it's a bit like the Balogun thing, innit? Keep it moving, even though I want him to stay. Once again, Ivan Toney has been linked with both Arsenal Football Club and Chelsea. Toney looks set to be on the move next year, and after his betting ban ends, he could be the subject of a January transfer battle between Arsenal and Chelsea. Brentford are willing to sell the striker and have set a price tag of 80 million for a player who will be in the final 18 months of his contract when he's free to play again on January the 17th. Toney has made it clear he wants to move to an elite club and has signed with super agent Jonathan Barnett in a bid to fulfill his dreams. I mean, he said elite club, so that probably rules out Spurs. Arsenal are weighing up whether to bolster their forward line to boost their title bid, and the availability of a proven goal scorer could spark a bidding war between London rivals. Brentford hope foreign clubs could enter the race, but as things stand, Arsenal and Chelsea are front runners to sign the 27-year-old. Both clubs know there will be an element of risk attached to signing a player coming back from an 8-month ban, and will weigh up whether that is worth the potential reward. Arsenal have often been reluctant to do big business in January, but adding a possible 10 goals from Toney in the second half of the season could make the difference in the title race. As we know, Jesus has got injuries. Arsenal have made him, obviously Ivan Toney, one of their primary targets. If they do decide to sign a striker, they've also scouted Feyenoord's Santiago Jimenez and Wolves' Pedro Neto, who can both also play out wide, so offer more versatility. So we'll have to see, really and truly. Bring him to the carpet. Cash or nothing, Juventus. I'm here for that. They have the data every 3 years of data. Every time by February, March, White, Saka, Partey fall off. They have these metrics. Not having cover is the club's fault. And that's what I mean when I say, ultimately, you've made your bed. You've got to lie in it. 72 likes, people. Can we get to 100? God bless you all. Hit the like button, people. And happy new month. We've been linked with Benjamin Sesko. I've done actually a 2-part video where we spoke about potential strikers. So go and have a look at that on my YouTube channel. But apparently Arsenal are ready to rub salt in the wounds by moving for a start after brutal Man United snub. Now, hasn't he just signed for Leipzig? Doesn't make sense for him to move straight away. Money talks, but it is what it is. I think Arsenal could be watching him and scouting him. Whether that is, whether the article's having a case of getting 2 and 2 and getting the millions, another thing. But for what it's worth, Arsenal are lining up a move for former Manchester United target Benjamin Sesko. Apparently, he rejected them last summer and he signed for Leipzig, people. He didn't join until July of this year. And apparently, he has 18 goals. Last season, he got 18 goals in 41. He's a Slovenia international and he's drawing interest from everyone. He's aggressively linked with AC Milan, where his agents previously come out and said we did hold talks, people. Apparently, he's valued at 40 million, which early 20s, 40 million. Don't really break the bank, but you have to give him time to develop. AC Milan are also interested, but Arsenal are confident they can win any race to secure the services of the attacker. Sesko has already scored 9 goals in 24 appearances for Slovenia. I like him. I like the runs he makes. I like the finishes. I like him a lot, really. But we're going to get linked to strikers. Being linked to strikers and arguably scouting strikers does not mean we're going to move for them. But bring him. Immediately bring him, people. As I said, his agents previously spoke about him as well, but I can't imagine he's in a rush to leave Leipzig anytime soon. Once again, we've gone over Jimenez, people. Apparently, Real Madrid, Arsenal, and Spurs are all looking at him. But the 22-year-old will cost a lot. Apparently, Feyenoord won an Eredivisie record of 87 million, people. Spurs, Real Madrid, Inter, and Arsenal are all keen. So tread lightly with that one. See what's going on there. We've gone over Ivan Toney. I'm so excited to get you Ivan Toney news. I've had the same article bare times. Arsenal want to keep hold of Ramsdale, allegedly, where January is concerned. Ben Jacobs has said, as far as January is concerned, I still think it will be quite difficult for any clubs. We hear about Chelsea, and of course, they're discussing players like Ramsdale internally. But Robert Sanchez is seen as the #1 goalkeeper. Arsenal will not want to lose a player like Ramsdale, who has a positive influence, even when he's not playing halfway through the season. Of course, there'll be rumours, there'll be interest, and there'll be inquiries. But I think Arsenal will probably do everything they can to possibly hang on to Ramsdale, even if Raya is the #1 at the moment, people. So there's that. Apparently, Mikel Arteta said no to a potential loan move away from the club for Kiwior. And, considering letting Tierney go, that's probably the best thing we did. Chelsea, Arsenal, Manchester United, and Manchester City, as we've seen all week, are keeping close tabs on Mark Gurhey, people. And it will be technical, but techie, because Chelsea are entitled to 25% of any fee. So that might mean Palace drive up the fee because they obviously have to run some bread. A lot of European clubs have been linked with Naj Razi, who is a 17-year-old Irish youngster, people playing for Shamrock Rovers. He can play out wide as well as in the 10. Allegedly, never seen him with my own eyes, but There's players all over the world. If he can come to this club and become a first teamer or be sold for profit, get it done. But he's been linked with Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, Chelsea, Manchester City, and saving the best till last, Arsenal. So big up the 17-year-old people. The player who signed professional terms with Rovers on his 16th birthday would be unable to move to England until January 2025 due to Brexit rules, but he'd be free to move to clubs in other European nations, including Spain. So we'll have to see in that regards. Apparently, Benjamin White is moving closer to agreeing a new contract. The 26-year-old at Arsenal Football Club. He would follow Odegaard, Ramsdale, Saka, Saliba, Martinelli, and co, which I think is well deserved. Big up Arsenal for a proactive approach in that. Again, we've been linked with the 6'4" Sesko. Again, we're going to get linked with everybody, really. Osimhen has said he knows of Chelsea's interest, allegedly. Do Chelsea, so this is probably his agent, do Chelsea and Liverpool like Osimhen? I know of Chelsea's interest, who are also looking at another striker, but we must not forget the approval expressed in the summer by PSG either. The Napoli president made it clear that we needed a Vicentino from a sheikh to take him away from Napoli, so that means a lot of money. Osimhen is much courted in Europe, and a few years ago, did Charles Watts not say that his agent was at London Coley, much like Arthur Melo and Telemans? And he's not pressing to leave. The situation must obviously be monitored. He's contracted until 2025, so next summer is a pivotal one. Man United and Arsenal people have been linked with Sacha Boey, but it seems like it's unlikely that would be a case. We've been linked with him quite a few times now, and I'm sure you're all bored of that. Arsenal are delighted with who? Benjamin White, says Romano. Yes, contract talks are ongoing. Benjamin White is very happy at Arsenal, and Arsenal are super happy with him. He's a super professional guy who can help in different positions. They're happy with Ben White in general. The idea is to extend the contract. In the last year, they extended 6 or 7 contracts for players. The new deal for White will be discussed in the next weeks, and the player wants to stay in the club, wanting to stay. So seems like that's just a case of formalities, people. Ramsdale's once again been praised for how he's training despite not being a regular in the team. Arsenal and Liverpool are to fight it out for Ransk, who's a versatile Ajax defender who can play at fullback and has been linked with us before. Don't know if Arsenal really want him or Liverpool really want him, but who knows? You'd imagine when we was looking at Timber, we must have seen what this guy is about. So yeah, we've probably made our decision. Would you not take Jadon Sancho? He's still linked with a move away from Man United, and he could be an angle for Arsenal. I say no, because I say yes, because I think he ties in with the age. He's a London boy. I think he's a good footballer. I think he would do a lot better in a more stable environment, and I think he's a good player. I think he's a player Arteta would like. I say no, because it's evident that he's better in the 10 and on the left. We need someone that can perform on the right. So you're not going to be direct competition for Saka. Your wages, again, I don't care what a player gets, but we don't know if you're going to hit the ground running, much less in January. As I said earlier, I love Mikel Arteta. He's a bit of a savior, but not every hole can be saved. Some holes can become wives. Sancho can't do that here, innit? So let's work with the raw diamonds we've got. Arteta, put all your attention to, I would say, Kai Havertz. And then if Havertz looks certain, you can go for players like this. But yeah, and even a loan fee would be expensive. And is, as much as I think Sancho is worth whatever they're asking, is he worth whatever United are asking for? Didn't they sign him for 70? He's probably got a price tag of 50, 55. Is it worth doing that? And as I said earlier, for me, the priority is centre mid. You get a centre mid in Arteta, you do this, innit? So we'll have to see, really and truly. No reason to talk about Tammy Abraham, but I'm just waiting for us to be relinked with Tammy Abraham, because we were linked with, remember when we was linked with him, Watkins and Calvert-Lewin. Watkins the best of the bunch. For what it's worth, Chelsea have been told they have to pay 52 million to re-sign him. I think they got a buyback clause and probably a sell-on clause. So yeah, I think we've moved away from needing Tammy Abraham. Apparently, Arsenal are closely watching Mozambique international Jenny Cantamo of Sporting Lisbon, people. Apparently, the 22-year-old is being looked at by Spurs and Aston Villa as well as us. So we'll have to see. Marcus Leonardo, who has been previously linked with Arsenal, they're saying next year he could be signing for Newcastle United, folks. So we'll have to see that. Pedro Neto's picked up an injury, and now my FPL team's in tatters, but Wolves are hopeful that he'll return before the end of the year. I mean, he said he's not going to leave. We all know Wolves are going to ask for an arm and a leg in January, and probably Arsenal not prepared to pay that. But this is probably, now with his injury, probably pours even more cold water in any Pedro Neto to Arsenal in January shouts. He left the game against Newcastle on a stretcher with a hamstring knock, people. So we'll have to see. And it's a bitter pill to swallow, because a bit like Bowen of West Ham, early doors in the Prem, they were two players that if you was doing team of the season so far, on the left or the right, they have a case of that. Bukayo Saka is this is in the way. Bukayo Saka has dismissed fears he could suffer from burnout and says he's ready to play 70 games this season to help Arsenal challenge both domestically and in Europe. And you add in what you could potentially play for England. Boy, we all know he missed the game against City, and that was the run which ended 87 consecutive Premier League appearances. To see him be nominated for the Ballon d'Or, to see you play 87 games, to see you break a whole bunch of stats, to see you get double figures in the Prem, PFA Player of the Year, Ballon d'Or nominee, captain the club. Special guy, man. Like, I always knew you was going to make it at Arsenal, as you could see with the videos years ago on my channel, but no one could see you doing this, innit? When it's your time, it's your time. And what a player Bukayo is. He said, I'm really focused on the next coming games and what I can do for the team. My focus is not really there on talking on burnout. I always want to be on the pitch to give my best. And if I'm injured, I have to be forced out. Then, of course, I will sit out. Now, that's a case of saving the player for himself. And Saka, you're still young. You know, you look at Cesc Fabregas and Wayne Rooney, you know, look how it kind of ended for them, really. So there is all, if we can, we need to get into a realm where we can afford to rest Saka because we can still be competitive and go into games like City. I know we won, but we were stressed that there was no Saka. So I do think there needs to be a bit balanced, but I love that from Saka. And no one accuses Bukayo Saka of not caring, but when people say footballers don't care, definitely at Arsenal Football Club, at this football club, it jars me because they do. He said, but as long as I'm there and I'm ready to play, I'll always going to give my best and tell them that I want to play, a bit like Gabriel Jesus. He then said, Mikel Arteta said, last season, look at the top players. They play 70 games every 3 days and make the difference and win the game. To which Saka said, I think it's possible. When you look at the top players, they're there every 3 days and they're winning games for their team. So I'm trying to be at that level. And to obviously be at that level, I need to push myself. Of course, it's difficult, but I'm trying to do it and give my best. Big him up, people, really. He said, we just have to take into account the results that we've been getting. We are close to the top of the table in the Premier League. I don't look at the table. We are top of our group in the Champions League. I don't look at that, Saka. And we're still in other competitions. That is something we can be proud of. But there's another level for us to go. We are pushing. And today, scoring 5 goals, we're getting closer to it. So that was in the aftermath of beating Sheffield United, obviously, people. What Saka said here, he's talking about Ballon d'Or. Well, Arteta said he does think about it. He wants to be the best, and I've discussed it with him. It's great they have those targets and that mindset. And I remember him saying something similar in relation to Martin Odegaard as well, people. I'm so glad as well that we had a few nominated on the list. Arteta said it's always good to look at yourself. Look at yourself. They're next to those names and in those lists, so it's a compliment to them for what they've done. Now the challenge is to be high up the list next season, because that means you will have done it again. So yeah, man, it is what it is in that regards. I can't lie. Would you lot take Trevor Chalobah from Chelsea? Hear me out, people. I'm not for it, but I'm not against it. He is fairly adaptable. We've got a decent relationship over them sides with Chelsea now. I just wanted to know if you lot would fancy it, people. But yeah, that's that. That's an interview I was watching. Don't forget, later today, set your reminders. Go on this video and turn on your notification bell, people, because an hour before kickoff, we're starting our watch along. But yeah, man, you said no to Chalobah. I'd 100% want Sancho, but he'd be quite far down the priority list in my eyes. 80 million is too much. He's 28, got a few months banned. Plus, we have Jesus. Toney is clinical, but let's be honest, 60 million, not my money, though. I hear that. No to Sancho. We got one failed wonder kid already on the books. So Arteta moving like Captain Saverho. Sancho was a right wing at Dortmund. I hear that, but he don't look that. It's not his thing, really and truly. I think you're a bit like Nelson in that if you could, I think you prefer to play in the 10 or on the left. I don't think Sancho is I think one thing that hasn't helped Sancho is he's seen as this 1v1 demon. It's not that he can't take someone on and skill them up. He's not really interested in that. Get Partey out. It's season in, season out. He's a quality player when he's on the pitch, but enough is enough. I'm close to Jesus as well if it keeps up. Harsh, man. Jesus has just been there. How old is Osman? Them fools got over 24 policy. Boy, Sesko is in that Morata mode. Young Morata pre-meltdown would have banged at the Emirates. Morata was at Chelsea, mad. Gabriel Jesus, proper footballer, but combine his ineffectiveness and unavailability, I can see why Pep didn't have much of a problem letting him go. Sesko is going to be 100 million striker in 2 years' time, but does he suit us at the moment? I mean, to be fair, everything we've done is for the moment, but also with years in mind, really. Juventus are cheap at buying, but they don't sell cheap, though. So we'd have to see. It'll be interesting to see exactly what the club will do, people, in all of these aspects. So yeah, man. Stop this Chelsea cast off. I'm just asking. I hear it. I'm just asking. I'm not necessarily for it. I'm not against it. Maybe if it was a cheeky little loan to tie us through to to next season. I don't know. I'm just asking, man. Don't shoot the messenger. Don't shoot the content creator. Who's going to be here to say people deluded? I'm just asking. I'm just asking, man. trying to see if there's anything else in relation to Arsenal. No, it's more or less the same things we've gone over, people, really. So it is what it is, people. It's always fantastic to be with here with you lot, regardless. But with that being said, in like an hour and 5 minutes, again, there's no point wasting anything further of your time. Imagine we kept Havertz at Chelsea. They'd be practically trying to give him away now. We can't play poker. But hey, we're not good at gambling, are we? But let's just hope it works out. But with that being said, we've gone over what Saka said, Mikel Arteta has said. We've spoken about our potential lineups. We've spoken about West Ham. We've spoken about some general points. So yeah, people, I'm going to love and leave you lot. Again, I'm back at 6:30 p.m. UK time. Check out the rest of the other vids. Make sure you're subscribing if you haven't, people. Again, you lot get on to me about doing tier vids and stuff like that. I haven't released them. I haven't even done the thumbnails for them, but I have recorded a couple. So if you've got any suggestions around that, let me know. And I did an Odegaard edited piece today. I'll probably let it come out on Friday as well. A little short piece for you lot. So yeah, you lot stay blessed, stay safe. You know, happy new month and things like that. Let's go after our goals. As usual, thank you very much for tuning in, regardless of the platform you're on. One love, man. Safe. Hit the like button on your way out and that.
There's always just that active red flag. Defenders have been given like.